Hello, welcome back. I'm Claire, this is Purple Poppy, and we are on, my goodness, day 11 of our stitching advent. So we'll put this to one side for a minute. Look, so all we've got. This is yesterday's 11 and 12. Wow. So let's have a little look at how I finished yesterday's. So we had a heart. This was our third heart, and I've covered one side in various bits of lace and just taken one strip onto the other side with a button in the middle, just holding it all tight. And then I've just done some fly stitch to make it look like sort of ferny flower. I've sewn a little white bead into the middle of the flowers here. And then on this, I hold it up so you can see, on this dog tooth, I've put a number of beads in the centre of the whites. So that's that one. So now this one is obviously completely empty and new. And this one's got a back, but no front. It's just one night I wanted to do a bit extra. So let's open up our bag and see what we have got. Drum roll, if you please. Da 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 da. Oh wow! Now that looks almost regal. That reminds me of like a cravat or something. And I can't help thinking that is going to work with this flower. I knew if we waited, the right fabric was going to come along. So beautiful, love it. It's not a polka dot. It's interesting because this one's got no selvage again. It's not a polka dot because it's got all the little dots in between. It's almost black. Yeah, it reminds me of like a cravat or something. It's absolutely beautiful. I love it, love it, love it. So let's find the end. Just check that our fold line where we usually tear, yep, that's going to be great. So I am going to snip down here. Now I'm sorry if all those spots are making your eyes go a little bit strange, because sometimes spots can do that, can't they? Whoops. Right, so, and do you know the interesting thing? This feels almost printed pattern rather than woven. Anyway, okay, so there's our piece of fabric. I'm obviously not wanting to do the leaf. I'm just wanting to do the flower head. Now, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking these are actually quite small petals. So I'm wondering if I should actually put this pinned on the back and actually just stitch it. That, I think, could work quite nicely. And we haven't got any... Yep, look, I've done that perfectly again. Well, yeah. So, get that on there. So I'm just going to trim it a little bit tall. I don't know why I feel the need to do that, but I do. So there is our actual piece of fabric. Put all those ends off. Right, so looks almost gold, doesn't it? Take my number 3 off of the back because we don't want to get carried away, and stitch that. Yeah, I think I'm going to look in my threads box, see what colour thread I've got to do this in. Now I am wondering if it should be gold. So this kind of colour, maybe not. I have got a navy blue, but I haven't got much of that. Mind you, it's not a lot to do, is there, really? Where's the end? There's the end. I'm just trying to decide. And then we could use a bluey green for the leaf. I almost feel like that's not dark enough. It's such a dark blue, it's almost black. But obviously that will stand out. So I think we could do the petals. Maybe in the blue. We could do the centre in the yellow. And then we could do the leaf in the green. Or am I thinking to take the blue out, use the gold? Or actually, I know it sounds weird, does it need this like olive? No, you can't, because it disappears, that's the problem. Or do we actually want a total contrast, and do we want like this salmony colour? I'm actually taking the navy blue out of the equation. I think I'm actually going to use the salmon and the gold because it's supposed to be petals. I want it to be a petally type colour. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go for those. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this on the reverse, roughly in the centre. I'm going to pin it into place and then I'm going to stitch it on the reverse. Like this. And then I'm going to tear all the paper off. That's the plan anyway. We'll see whether or not this is going to work. Okay, so I have got a thread, a needle somewhere. Where did I have my needle? There. There's a needle that I had earlier, and I'm going to stitch it all almost like a tacking stitch in this white sewing cotton, and then I'm going to go over that tacking cotton with my embroidery thread. That makes sense. You see, you can just see the line there, and that's how I'm going to put my pattern down. I understand that there are methods of pin pricking the paper and then dabbing it with like chalk so that it goes through the holes. And that's one way of doing it. Or of course, if you had a carbon paper or something, you could, you know, do like, as it were, almost a rubbing of it, and that would give you a way of transferring your pattern. If you could draw, which I can't, then you could draw it on one of those heat removable pens. Also, because I am doing these tacking type, or I believe they call it basting now, in my day it was always tacking, threads, the paper's not being held down well enough for it to be a problem to remove. So that's another way of looking at it. I'm not going to even worry to do the line up the middle, because, sorry, I've got a thread issue there and I need to pull that through. I'm not even going to bother, there we go, to do the line up the middle, because that'll be pretty obvious when I'm working on the other side. So just feeding further up this stalk, stem, whatever. So I trust everybody's happy, safe and well. And I mean, I've never done this before. I have no clue whether or not this is going to work. I don't see why it wouldn't. You can see we've got the white pattern on the back, seems to be okay. I'm just going with logic, really. Now, I got in conversation last night via social media with one of the ladies in my Facebook group, because she put up a picture. She was busy making a pile of Suffolk puffs, and I don't know if you're like me, but when I see something, see an image, your mind's transported to something that you know may not actually be what you're looking at, but you know what you're looking at reminds you of it or whatever. And I saw this pile of Suffolk puffs and I thought, oh my goodness, she's making one of those dolls. Because when I was younger, my mum had purchased for me this fabric doll. Now, some of you will know what I'm talking about and some of you won't. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I suggest you Google yo-yo doll or Suffolk puff doll, whatever. Anyway, so I just sent a message over and said, oh, you're making one of those dolls? And then I looked a bit closer and said, oh no, you're not, because you've put buttons onto your puffs. And I knew that to make the doll, she wouldn't be putting buttons on. So she said, no clue what you're talking about, had to Google it. Anyway, that led me off down a rabbit hole that I then sat last night and cut and sewed, I don't even know, about 50 Suffolk puffs. Because in my brain I was going to make one of these dolls. I mean, I've got 2 granddaughters, so that's, you know, not a problem at all. And then in the early hours of this morning, I suddenly remembered that one of them, I can't remember which one, but one of them has got one. Because I remember a conversation with my daughter about, oh, I had one of those. I didn't know you could still get them, blah, blah, blah. So now I've got this pile 50 odd or whatever it is Suffolk puffs, all in the same fabric, which is an X duvet. So there's two different fabrics, but obviously coordinating. And I've now got to find a purpose for them. So I don't know what's going to happen to them, but I did see a video yesterday that Sarah and Rachel, the Roxy Creation Girls, are doing a volume 3 of their stitchery, and it's called Down the Garden Path, I believe. So I'm like, oh yes please, I will definitely have a go at that, because obviously by the time Christmas comes, although I doubt very much this book will be finished, because I've got to make all the cover and all the backs, etc., I am going to be looking for a new project. So I'm figuring at some point those puffs are going to appear in that project. So if you haven't found it yet and you think you might be interested, search it out. I believe the girls are starting in January, and I believe it's supposed to last for 6 weeks. 6 months, not 6 weeks, 6 months. And I did have a little hunt around and think, you know, New Year's coming. I've only really stabbed at Defemembra. I've not done it properly, and for some reason my heart's not really in it. So that's been a bit of a hit and miss for December, and I started looking at whether or not I wanted to join in a January one. And I see that Meg is doing her junk journal January again, and I'm like, do you know what, I don't think I do. And I think I've realised that the problem is I don't like this daily commitment. And I think the reason the Roxy Girls one appeals to me is not only because it's fabric, and I do have this new, you know, found love for fabric, but also because it's not daily. I think that's my problem. So if anybody is listening and you want to do a challenge, a collaboration type challenge that's more widely spread, like the Roxy Girls are doing, then, you know, count me in. I can't, well, I can. To say I can't is a fib. I can definitely commit to every day, because, well, I'm retired, and let's face it, other than keeping the house tidy and hubby fed, I don't really have much else to do. So I definitely can commit to every day, but I don't want to. For me, you know, when you start doing something every day like that, first of all, when you sign up for something like that, to me, it's a little bit like taking on a pet. It's a commitment. You know, you said you'll do it and you're going to do it. Therefore, I find it very hard not to fulfill it. And I get very sort of cross with myself, and that puts me in a bad mood. So that's not good. Crafting's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be about, you know, getting cross with yourself. And the other thing is that if I'm doing that every day, I'm not doing anything else. And I like to do a number of things. You know, I want to do some paper, some sewing. And I know it's not necessary for me to say all this, because let's face it, nobody's holding a gun to my head. It is my choice. But yeah, I don't want to commit to something that's going to take every day. So I decided not to do Junk Journal January. I've already, as I've hinted at a few times, changed the schedule of the way I'm gonna be doing things on my channel next year anyway. So yeah, I'm not, and it, don't misunderstand me, it doesn't mean that I'm suddenly going to disappear. I've got no plans on going anywhere, because, you know, saddo that I am, I've got nothing else to do except craft and share it with you guys. So I'm not going anywhere, but I just want the freedom to choose what I'm going to do, rather than feel like it's a job of work and I'm committed to doing this on a Monday and this on a Tuesday and this on a Wednesday. I've done that this year, and whilst the crafting element of it was fun, there were times when my part-time day job, because, you know, I'm only sort of half retired. Officially I'm fully retired, but my ex-clients won't let me be retired, so I'm only half retired. Then it becomes real pressure, because I need to do the things that the customers want to earn some money and keep the customers happy and coming back, and then the crafting gets put behind, and I feel guilty for that because I feel like I've let you guys down. So no, this year we're having a big change, and whilst I will definitely still be here and hopefully inspiring you and sharing crafting with you, it's gonna be in a much different way to the way it's been this year. So there you go. Whoops. Oh, I've got problems with this thread again. Right, we had problems with the thread yesterday, didn't we? And I think I've come to realise from something I heard somebody say in one of their videos, it's because it's old thread. This thread has been around, ow, I mean, it's not vintage or anything, but it's been around since my patchworking days. So it's been around a long time. It may be time to think about getting new threads. So we've only got a couple of stitches to go here, and then we can pull this paper off and see if this has worked. It looks like it's worked, doesn't it? Well, that's handy, Harry. I have to remember that. And if you've not tried it or seen this done, there's hopefully a helpful little tip for you. Okay, so I'm not going to do the pollen bit, you know, the bit from the middle of the plant. You'd think if I'm going to stitch these plants, I'd learn a bit more about what the various elements are called, wouldn't you? Okay, so now what I want to do is try and rip this off without damaging the stitch work that I've done. And of course it would be on good paper rather than cheap copier paper, so of course it's thicker, which makes it harder to get off. Didn't think about that either, did I? But I'm sure there are embroiderers out there going, oh my goodness, Claire, what are you doing? But this was the only way that I could think to ruin my piece of fabric. No, to get the pattern on. Yeah, see, and now it's just pulling. So, and I'm frightened to snip the paper off in case I snip the threads. That's the thing. So the first point I would make here is, if you're trying this, use a thinner paper. Do not use heavy paper, because that makes your life more difficult, as is proven here. But if you go fairly firm, it's a bit like ripping off a band-aid, then put it back out. It does actually seem to work. So are you laughing at me? I bet you are. Yeah, I'm sure they're... I'm going to definitely try this again with a thinner paper, because I think if I'd have had a thinner, less robust paper, this would have worked a whole lot easier. And maybe if I'd been a bit more patient and not tried to rip it all off in one piece, it might have worked a bit better. But we are getting there, and I will feel like it's quite an achievement if it's worked. So it's worth it for that reason, if nothing else. Right, get all these bits of paper out of the way. Stitching's supposed to be clean and tidy, isn't it? Trying desperately, you see, not to cut the thread, and that's why. That's why cutting it is not going to work. Right, second reveal of the day. Yes, you see, now that has worked perfectly well. So I will definitely do it again, but next time, just to take my woolly off, it's getting a bit warm in here. Next time I'm going to be doing it with a thin copy paper rather than a quality paper, because that did make my life more difficult. So I'm going to start with the green, and I'm going to do the stem and the leaf, and then we'll see how long I've kept you and if I'm going to do the rest tonight. Although, to be honest, I don't think there is much else. This is a very simple one for a Sunday. We don't want anything too taxing on a Sunday. Hubby's out in the garden, which I'm a bit surprised at, because it's -3 here. So it's warmed up a little bit. When I got up this morning, it was actually -4. So okay, thread this needle. Usual headache probably. No, that was nice and simple, wasn't it? Okay, let's straighten that out. And now, of course, I can knit from the correct knit. Goodness me, I'm getting all my crafts mixed up. I can stitch from the front. So I'm going to start right down the bottom of my stem, and I'm just going to stitch right next to this stem, because in an ideal world I will snip the white and pull it out. Doesn't matter if you don't, or I can't, but I don't necessarily want it there. So if I can, I will take it out. Okay. Now, I know there is a way of doing a leaf stitch, and I believe the way you do that is you go right to left all the way across it. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a running stitch all the way around it, keeping with what we've been doing, and then tonight I may look at doing a proper leaf stitch, and I'll come back to you with that tomorrow, as we have done each time with the finished page or piece. So there we go. So I was talking to you about the Roxy Girls new challenge, wasn't I? I have already been through my stash of fabrics, and I have decided that regardless of what their prompts are, I'm going to be working in pink and green. So I've picked out all the pink and green that I have in my stash, all the odd little bits and pieces. There's even some unfinished bits of patchwork there. So I've picked all of those out, ready, put them all in a bag, and I've decided that what I would like to do is I'm not sure if I'm going to do a book or a big piece yet, but I want to do it in the crazy patchwork style. So I'm going to get some calico, and I think I'm going to do their prompt on the I'll hold it up close so you can see now the green stitching as well as the white, and I'm going to spend tonight filling that in. I think that's the plan. So yeah, and then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do their prompts on the calico, which will be the centre picture block, and then I'm going to do crazy quilt pieces around the outside. So that's fine. Sounds like hubby's having a shower, so he obviously did get absolutely frozen when he was outside. I did wonder why he was going out in the garden when it was minus, but there you go. He's obviously been having some kind of tidy up. And for some reason, struggling to get these separated. There we go. Okay, so put all that over there. I'm going to thread our needle again. And we're going to go for it. So I'm going to pop that through there. I'll thread that now. We get a knot in the end, and we do a few petals. Okay, so start across in there. And again, exactly the same. Oops, get rid of all them threads. Exactly the same thing that I just did. I'm gonna work my way around the edge of the petal shape. Oh, now that pink, that salmony pink, is shining up beautiful on there. So pleased with that choice of colour. The green is not quite so obvious, so I'll probably end up going back round and filling in those stitches, or maybe doing satin stitch across them or something like that. Not 100% sure yet. That's something that I will work out later on, but I think they need more sort of confirmation that they're there than they've got at the moment with that running stitch. Okay, and then same thing again, and I'm just sorry, I know I'm turning it back to front and left to right. It's probably giving you a headache, isn't it, me constantly moving it around with all those spots on. So in fear of making someone feel uncomfortable, I think I'm going to stop on this second petal, because you've seen both the colours that I'm doing, and then when I come back it'll all be finished and you can have a look. Oh look, and I've pulled the needle off the thread, so that's definitely a perfect stopping point, isn't it? So there you go, that's what we've done today, and I can't even show you the flower we've done because I've ripped it all up. As always, thank you so much for joining me. Stay safe, I'll be back with you very soon. Bye bye for now.